Dear students, in our previous lecture, we found that three things are essential for effective transformation of plants. The first being availability of competent cells. Secondly, method to introduce DNA into those competent cells. And thirdly, a procedure to select and regenerate transformed plant cells at a satisfactory frequency. We have already studied about the first essential requirement, and under second requirement, that is method to introduce DNA into competent cells, we have studied indirect method of plant transformation through a natural vector, Agrobacterium tumefaciens. Now, in this lecture, we will study about the direct methods of plant transformation in detail. Agrobacterium tumefaciens naturally infects only dicotyledonous plants, hence many monocotyledonous plants including the cereals remained inaccessible for genetic manipulation for quite a long period of time. However, recently transformation by Agrobacterium method was made possible for few successful monocotyledon species, but still the success is not by large. Hence, for such cases, direct transformation methods have been developed and are efficiently established on rice, banana, corn, wheat, sugarcane, etc. In the direct methods of transformation, the foreign gene of interest is delivered directly into the host plant cell without the help of a vector. This can be done by two methods: physical gene transfer methods and chemical gene transfer methods. Particle bombardment or biolistics method involves the propelling of microscopic tungsten or gold particles coated with genetically engineered DNA into plant cells with high velocity. The particles penetrate the cell wall, lodge themselves within the cell and liberate the DNA, leading to the transformation of individual cells of the explant. In order to lodge these particles, a biolystic device well known as the gene gun was first designed by Sanford et al. In 1987. They employed a gunpowder charge to propel the DNA coated particles. Since then, several other types of guns have been described, but generally most of them now use helium gas as a propelling agent. Firstly, the foreign DNA is coated on tungsten or gold particles. These particles, which are loaded with the DNA, are called as microcarriers. The microcarriers are then loaded on a sheet which is known as macrocarriers. Now, the macrocarriers are inserted into the biolystic apparatus and pushed downward at high velocities. During the travel, the microcarriers are stopped by a perforated plate, while the microcarriers are allowed to propel at a high speed into the plant cells on the other side. As the microcarriers enter the plant cells, the transgenes get free from the particle surface and may get inserted into the chromosomal DNA of the plant cells. The selectable markers present in the DNA segment help in identifying the transformed cells, which are then regenerated and developed into whole plants by using tissue culture technique. In biolystic approach, three aspects are taken into consideration: the particle and its preparation, acceleration of the particle, and choice of the target material. In particle bombardment, a balance has to be attained between the number and size of the particles fired into the target cells because of the damage they do and the amount of DNA they deliver. If too little amount of DNA is delivered, it may lead to low transformation frequencies, and if too much amount of DNA is delivered, then this may lead to a high copy number and rearrangements of the transgene constructs. The acceleration of the microcarrier also affects greatly, and it can be regulated by adjusting the helium pressure, adjusting the distance between the rupture disk and the macrocarrier, adjusting the distance the macrocarrier travels, and adjusting the position of the target cells within the sample chamber. For plant cells, 1100 psi pressure, 1 centimeter distance between the rupture disk and the stopping screen, and a microcarrier flight distance of 12 centimeter generally gives good transformation frequency, but it is advisable to optimize the conditions for transformation of each plant species. The targeted plant material either can be a primary explant, which after bombardment is induced with embryogenesis, or it can be a pre-raised embryogenic culture which is subjected to bombardment followed by proliferation and regeneration of the transgenic plants. Particle bombardment is a versatile and effective transformation method as there is no dependence on bacteria. So, the limitations with organisms such as Agrobacterium tumefaciens do not apply. There are no intrinsic vector requirement, so transgenes of any size and arrangement can be introduced. Presently, particle bombardment is the most efficient method to achieve organelle transformation. For example, plastid transformation, and it is the only method so far used to achieve mitochondrial transformation too. Particle bombardment does not depend on any particular cell type as long as the DNA can be introduced into the cell without killing it, and as long as the cells exhibit totipotency under the culture conditions employed. Also, both single cells and organized tissues can be used as transformation targets in this method. Particle bombardment utility has also been established with the cell types that have traditionally been difficult to reach, such as dividing cells in the apical meristem or cells residing in deeper layers in organized tissues. Particle bombardment has been found to be the most convenient method for multiple gene transfer to plants, since DNA mixtures comprising any number of different transformation constructs can be used. Limitations to the particle bombardment method relative to Agrobacterium mediated transformation are: multiple copies of the transgene may get integrated at a single insertion site, rearrangement of the inserted gene occurs, incorporation of the transgene at multiple insertion sites. These multiple copies may lead to the silencing of the transgene in subsequent progeny. Only a small proportion of the cells that initially receive DNA actually become stably transformed. In the remaining cells, the DNA enters the cell and may be expressed for a short time, that is transient expression, but it is never integrated and is eventually degraded by nucleases. Electroporation is a mechanical method used to introduce polar molecules into a host cell through the cell membrane. The relatively weak hydrophobic hydrophilic interactions of phospholipid bilayer plant cell membrane and its natural ability to spontaneously reassemble after disturbance provides basis to this technique. It is a well-established fact that an electrical field, when applied to a cellular suspension, induces a dipolar movement inside the cells, due to which a potential difference is created through the plasma membrane. When the potential difference is bigger than 0.5 volts at normal conditions of pressure and temperature, an electrical imbalance is created in the plasma membrane, which leads to cell permeabilization. The effect of this electrical imbalance are reversible only when the electrical pulse lasts less than 100 microseconds, else it may destroy the cell membrane. Under these favorable circumstances, DNA can be introduced into the cells without changing the cellular functions or the membrane integrity. The membrane then reseals quickly and transient or stable expression can be achieved. It has been shown that the pulse length, the type of pulse and duration of the pulse have a strong effect on transformation efficiency. In electroporation, the plant cell protoplasm are suspended in an ionic solution containing the vector DNA in a small chamber that has electrodes set at the opposite ends. A pulse of high voltage is applied to the electrodes, which produces transient pores in the plasma membrane, allowing the DNA to diffuse into the cell. After a short period, the membrane reseals. The cells then regenerate cell wall, divide to form callus, and finally regenerate complete plants. During the process, the conditions should be optimized in such a way that the pores are sufficiently large and remain open long enough to allow DNA insertion. At the same time, the conditions should make pores that are temporary. This can be achieved by optimizing the field strength, that is, the voltage applied across the electrode. When a cell is subjected to the frequency fields lower than 100 kHz, the cell gets compressed by the field because its dipolar moment is antiparallel to the electric field. In contrast, on providing a field with a frequency higher than 100 MHz, its cellular membrane suffers a short circuit, and at the same time its dipolar moment grows and rotates towards the direction of the field, producing a cellular stretching along this direction, leading to a temporal permeabilization of the membrane. The pre-treatment of heat shock of 45 degrees centigrade for 5 minutes prior to addition of the DNA and post-treatment of placing on ice after pulsing are known to improve the transformation frequency. Electroporation is effective with nearly all cell and species types. A large majority of cells take in the target DNA. The amount of DNA required is smaller than required by other methods. If the pulses are of the wrong length or intensity, some pores may become too large or fail to close after membrane discharge, causing cell damage or rupture. The transport of material into and out of the cell during the time of electropermeability is relatively non-specific. This may result in an ion imbalance that could later lead to improper cell function and cell death. In microinjection method, the foreign DNA is directly injected into the plant cells or plant protoplasts, or even pipetted in by using fine tipped pipette. The cells or protoplasts are first immobilized on a solid support such as agarose or held with a macro pipette under suction, and the DNA is injected into the nucleus or cytoplasm. The cells are then paved towards the regeneration pathways. Microinjection method is versatile and requires small amount of DNA, but the major limitations faced by these methods are that it is an extremely slow process and it requires expensive setup and highly skilled and experienced personnel to perform it successfully. In this method, chemicals are used to create transient pores in the membrane to allow DNA to pass inside the cells. Chemicals such as polyamines and dextran sulfate, etc., stimulate DNA uptake, but they also harm the cells. On the other hand, polyethylene glycol is one such chemical which was found effective and performs transformation by destabilizing the plasma membrane and allowing the DNA to pass in without harming the cells. For this method, generally plant protoplasts are chosen. The target plant cell protoplasts and the gene of interest are taken in a medium containing relatively high concentrations of high molecular weight PEG in the presence of divalent cations like calcium at pH 8 to 9. As the mixture is incubated, the PEG and the divalent cations destabilize the membrane and render it permeable to the naked DNA. Once inside the protoplast, the DNA enters the nucleus and integrates into the plant cell genome. Conventional breeding has a significant impact, but the time-consuming process of making crosses and back crosses and the selection of the desired trait progeny make it more difficult. Genetically modified crops represent an alternative to boost the productivity, and they may even be employed in eroded land where normal crops would find difficult to grow. This technology has the potential to provide a worldwide benefit. However, there are certain areas seeking improvement in targeting biochemical pathway engineering using multiple genes and the development of new technologies for plant transformation.